Are you a hardworking local business owner striving for success online? There is help. Welcome to the Smarter Local Marketing Podcast, featuring candid conversations and inspiring stories of online success. Now, here's your host.
Yes, this is James Martell, and I am your host for the Smarter Local Marketing Podcast. And today I am joined by my co-host, Jane Warren, a local customer acquisition specialist and a partner here at Smarter Local. And today we are going to be talking about why you need to look at the big Google as the new Yellow Pages. Now, before Jane joins us, just a reminder that if you would love to finally have in place a rock-solid internet marketing strategy for your business that provides you with an excellent ongoing return on investment, go ahead and reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode to arrange a free, no-obligation discovery call to discuss how a Smarter Local Marketing program can be custom-tailored to your specific needs, budget, and business. Again, simply reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode to arrange your free discovery call. Now, granted, let's move on to the Yellow Pages. Now, granted, there was a time, and it really wasn't that long ago, when the Yellow Pages dominated the advertising world. It was the go-to source for consumers to find local businesses. And if you needed to find a plumber or a hairdresser, or you wanted to order a pizza, find a chiropractor, or an automotive shop, you would, as they used to say way back, let your fingers do the walking. However, since the rise of search, especially Google, consumer behavior has changed, with now a whopping 90+% of those consumers now rely on the internet to find those local businesses. And this is our topic today, is to how to look at Google as the new Yellow Pages. Now, again, Jane Warren is a local customer acquisition specialist and a partner here at Smarter Local. Jane, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, James. Thanks for the opportunity to join you. It's quite an honor.
Oh, no, it's great to have you on, and this is a really good topic. And you and I were chatting about this before we got on the show today, and you'd mentioned a story about the Yellow Pages and your mom. We weren't planning on kicking it off with that, but we have to kick off the show with that story.
Oh, Lord. Well, I'll make her famous again, won't I? Yellow Pages has been a part of our family for many years, and when I first saw this topic, I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to get in trouble. But she would keep a copy of the Yellow Pages in her car, because when always she was out and she needed to find something, she said she could always, get out the phone book and find it. So the problem was you normally only got one copy of the Yellow Pages for each phone number you had at home. But she would tell that Southern Bell rep that we had another phone in the house and she just needed an extra one, but it was just so she could have in her car. Sometimes that would work and sometimes it wouldn't. And if it didn't, then she would tell us, there were 5 kids, go up and down the street and see if anybody still got their Yellow Pages on their front stoop of their step. So for the younger ones, it was a game. The older ones, you were just totally embarrassed. But anyway, we would. And if we'd see one, we'd kind of huddle and say, okay, who's going to go get it, draw straws, whatever. And then we would dart up there, grab the Yellow Pages, come back out, cutting through bushes, across yards, whatever, heading back down the street with that phone book, which, was okay. And then the problem was, they get heavier. It's not like you're stealing a newspaper. And then in Atlanta, which is where I grew up, they start having 2 books. And so we just laughed about how, we'd be running down the street carrying Yellow Pages phone books. And later on, when I was thinking about this, I thought, thank God for the internet, because otherwise we'd still be doing that for her one way or another. It was quite a memory.
Well, and you mentioned it. You remember how thick those books were. And of course, I live up in the Vancouver area in British Columbia, Canada. And I remember the Yellow Pages and the White Pages. They must have been probably at least 3.5 inches thick, both of the books.
Yeah.
And they were substantial.
That's right. And then to keep them from getting thicker, they would start making the print smaller. So it just became even more difficult to use them without, either a magnifying glass or something. But anyway, it was interesting for all of us.
Before we brought you on, we talked about the change in consumer behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading, and I see that you spotted it too, that in 2019, they've designated that year as the last year for the actual printed version of the Yellow Pages.
Right. It's been printing for 51 years, and I think I saw it's going to stop in January of 2019. It just can't compete now, and people just don't use them. They go to Google to look online.
It's so true. It's interesting when we're talking with local business owners, and you ask them if they're still in the Yellow Pages, and most of them are not. Most of them have basically let that go, and I think that's probably evident by just seeing how thin these Yellow Pages are now. They're not nearly what they used to be. And that's because so many businesses just stopped getting the value. The phone stopped ringing, and people stopped coming through the front door because of the Yellow Pages. So, of course, we're not going to throw money at something for very long that ain't working, so we had to get rid of it. But then we have this change to the internet, and I also know, talking with, and you've probably come across this as well, where they're a little bit annoyed with it, and they're not really happy with this thing, the internet. And we call the internet too much because, at least with the Yellow Pages, it was simple. There was one point of reference, meaning every home had a Yellow Pages. It was really the only way we could look up a local business. There was no internet, of course. There really wasn't a lot of other things, if anything. So they knew if they had an ad in the Yellow Pages, at least they had a fighting chance to get found. And the Yellow Pages, I think for most businesses, it worked pretty well. Plumbers, electricians, restaurants, all of the businesses were covered. And there really wasn't anywhere else to go. So all they had to do was make sure that they were talking to their ad rep every year, who would also make it easy for them and work up an ad for the actual book itself. So as long as they got their ad in the book, they were pretty much good to go. Whereas today we look at the internet and it is so much more complicated than that, isn't it?
It is, but it's just a required change as things have evolved. And as you say, the Yellow Pages has gotten thinner and people aren't using them. There is no sense trying to continue to put money in that area. It can be complicated, and yet if you can focus on the basic strategies that will keep local customers finding you, then you really can take it and use it to your advantage and see it as a positive opportunity.
Did you ever have a business yourself or know somebody with a business who advertised in the Yellow Pages, and you recall what they would have been spending? I've got a few examples.
It depended on the size ad you would go with. I don't recall the numbers right offhand, but you could go from just your name, listing, and phone number and address to the quarter page, half page, large page, but I don't remember right offhand.
Yeah, I actually remember some of the pricing, and it could be easily range into the thousands if you're in a larger area. And I know some lawyers and plumbers that would spend literally thousands of dollars a month just to be in the Yellow Pages. And they weren't overly happy about that part of it, but it definitely brought business to their door.
Yeah, but think about what happens when something changes. If their phone number changes, their addresses change.
So true.
Then what are they going to do? They've got that thousands of dollars invested in something that's not going to necessarily give them any return on that investment.
That's actually, I never thought of that. That's a very good point. Unlike today with the internet, you can literally just go in and update your address, your phone number, whatever's changed. In the early days, whatever's in the book was in the book because it's sitting in everybody's homes until the next year goes by. The other thing that always amazed me with that is how many trees had to die for the Yellow Pages. It must have been unbelievable.
Yeah, it must have been. I'm not a tree hugger, but anyway, I can't imagine the amount of trees that...
Yeah. When you and I were talking, you had mentioned a budget that was once directed at the Yellow Pages that could now be directed at search and getting found. And I guess you could say really focusing on, and I'm talking maybe to local business owners here, where focusing on getting to truly understand how the internet works, especially Google, because I've got a lot of clients, and even still they're in this, well, James, you just take care of it for me. You just take care of it. Yeah. And I'm more of an educator. It's like I want them to know how this works because it's not rocket science if you explain it to them, and if they will just take a few minutes and kind of hear us out here, because this is where the people are now. They're going to Google now, and they're going and they're doing a search. 90+% of those people that were using the Yellow Pages are now using Google. So we better know how to get our businesses list highly. And as you and I always say, get found. Because when somebody's searching for you, it's a real shame when they can't find you. And that happens a lot.
Right.
So why don't we talk about Google and the various pieces of it? And let's maybe start by talking about the SERPs. And the SERPs is a little 5-letter acronym, I guess, for Search Engine Results Pages. You've noticed it. I've noticed it. They've changed a lot over the years, that page that serves up the results, especially local, where local now, and if everybody was to open up a browser, let's say you're on your computer. We'll talk about smartphones in a moment. But let's say you're on your computer and you do a Google search for automotive shop and then maybe the town you're in.
Right.
Up will come the listings on the front page. And usually the first 3 to 4 listings are paid ads. And the only way to get into those spots is to pull out your credit card. Directly below that, we now have the map results, where there'll be a map with pins in it. And below the map, there'll be another 3, 4 listings, usually 3 listings, where those businesses that are in the quote-unquote local Google map results, they show up there. And then below those is the natural search results. Now, we could pay for the paid ads, but then the Google map results and the local results, we can't pay to get in there, can we?
Right. Yeah, you can't buy those.
And that's where the conundrum comes in, I find, for local businesses. And they'll look at their competition. And I encourage everybody who's listening to open up a browser and type in whatever industry you're in. So if you're a chiropractor, type in chiropractor and then the name of your hometown and maybe your state or province. And up will come all the chiropractors that are in the results. And you'll see the paid ads at the top. And keep in mind, the guys that are paying for the ads at the top probably know how that works and are probably seeing a lot of customers come through their door. Then there's the map results, again, and we want to make sure that we get into those results. But again, you can't pay for those. You have to basically organize your site in such a way and your content in such a way and some other things so you can actually compete against your competitors to win a spot in those results. And then there's the natural results. So let's go back to the natural results, because that's where you and I started way back 10 plus years ago.
Right.
There was some paid ads, but they were over in the right-hand column, which no longer exists. Right. The natural results was where you really wanted to be, because you would, even though there'd be paid ads there, if you had a number 1 position in the natural results, you get 7 times more click-throughs than the ads. And it didn't cost you every month. So you just had to make sure you knew how to get up there. So what's your recollections on that?
Well, I can remember that it was important to know the keywords that people would be searching for and making sure you had them in the proper placement and the proper tags and, just within the website that it was optimized to where you could work your way to be above the fold, to be in those top, 1, 3, 5 results that show up in Google. Because as you've had some from some previous podcasts, people usually are just going to stay on the first page, and most of the time they won't look past 5, 6, or 7 results that show there. So you've got to have somebody that understands what are the important components that need to be structured in your website that help get you there and keep you there organically, the natural way.
And you mentioned top 10 keywords, and that's one thing that we offer to local business owners is we will actually, at no charge, complimentary, is identify what your top 10 most profitable keywords are. And that's important, because if you know what they are, then you structure your website to rank for those keyword phrases, so that when somebody goes and does a search for chiropractor Victoria, BC, you have a great opportunity not only to rank in the local results, but also in those map results. So you need to know your top 10 keywords. And if you'd like to get a list of those, just again, reply to the email which you received this episode, and we will be happy to work those out for you. Then there's the map results. And maybe we could switch over a little bit to talking about, of course, map results show up on computers as well. And I like them, but really where they shine is on the smartphones. With many of my clients, 60-70% of the people that visit their website are actually now visiting it through their smartphone. They've surpassed computers as a preferable method of search. So, and then you've seen it, the map results is front and center, isn't it?
All right. Yes, it is.
And there's no missing that. So you want to definitely make sure you're one of those pins on the map, because they'll show again the first few listings, 3 usually, and then a little link to more where you can view the rest of them. But you also mentioned you want to be up towards the top of the page, because unlike the early days of search, I remember in 1999 when this whole term was basically coined, surfing the internet. I don't think we use that word anymore, because we used to use the word surfing because we had to go find it. We had to dig through all the spam, all the mischaractered stuff, all of the information that wasn't really categorized correctly, and it was just a mess. Whereas today, when you do a Google search for something, it's so well indexed, and it's right in front of you.
And you say you're going to Google something. You don't talk about surfing. You say, I'm going to Google it.
Exactly right. I never thought of that. That's exactly right. And up she pops.
Yep.
So there's the Google natural results, there's the Google map results, and then, of course, there's the Google reviews. And maybe you could talk to that a little bit, because they're becoming extremely important.
They are, and I've been listening to the podcast. Even in the last podcast you had with Jose, you talked about how just even graduating up a star in your review can make such a difference in traffic. And as you've always taught us, traffic plus conversion, getting people there and then helping them make their decision will bring profit. But yes, the reviews are important. That's where we all, when we start looking or surfing the web or Googling for something now, you tend to see the stars or reviews that are there associated with that website for that business. And since we're not wanting to spend a lot of time doing things, we tend to look at those that have the higher number of stars and reviews than those that don't have any at all.
And I was actually surprised at how powerful they are, but they say those reviews are as powerful as a personal endorsement from a good friend. And if you think about that, that's pretty amazing. I know with Sawbuck's Pub, one of my clients up in this neck of the woods at sawbuckspub.com, we've actually worked on their reviews, and they've been a client of mine for probably, I think, 6 years now. And like most businesses who are not really paying attention to this, the other thing you want to do is go search on your competitor's name and go see how many reviews they have. And even still, there's a lot of companies that have, as you said, none, or 1 or 2 or 3. And I know with Sawbucks, when we started with them, they actually had 3 reviews. And 2 of them were horrible, and 1 of them was good. And just by putting some systems in place and kind of organizing some things and automating some things, and we're talking real reviews, no monkey business, actual reviews by actual happy customers. Sawbucks now has over 750 reviews. And when somebody does a Google search for them, those reviews are all over Google, because not only are the reviews in Google as far as on the Google page, but also if you have reviews in Yelp, in Facebook, in any one of the big review directories, those show up usually front and center on the search engine results page as well. And as you said, if you have a lot of positive reviews, customers gravitate towards those because they're valuable. It's helping them determine who they're going to go see, you or your competitor.
And these things, we're not emphasizing them because they're so difficult to do, and trying to make a local business feel like they've just got so much to do in the area of catch up as far as transitioning out of this paid, book media to online. But they're things that are just basic steps to take, just like you say with the reviews, taking them from 3 to several hundred. With the right guidance, it can be easily managed to be done. And Google is looking for that. So we've got to address it as local owners.
You gave a shout out to Jose there. I'd like to give one out to TJ, because I had a chance to talk with him as well. And we talked specifically about Google My Business. And I'd encourage listeners, if this sounds a little bit intriguing to you, and as a real source for new customers through your door, or if you happen to be a doctor, new patients, or if you're maybe in a services business, more clients through your door. I had a chance to talk with TJ about basically the service that Google has called Google My Business. And that's where you, as the business owner, manage your Google account as far as your local search traffic, your local reviews is within the Google My Business. So we won't get into the details on that here because we covered it thoroughly in that one. And it's called Why Google My Business is so important for your local business, because it really is. And we had a chance to talk with TJ about how the Google My Business page on Google helps customers find you and helps bring you more customers. and why it's so important to your business, and how to go in and basically set up and claim your listing. And some steps involved in it. Actually, I just helped a local plumber go through the whole process, and they send out a postcard, and there's some hoops to go through. But it's worth it, and it's worth taking the time. And I know for busy business owners who are preferred maybe just to have somebody else like us take care of that for you, by all means, reach out. Just hit the reply button on that email. We'll be happy to have a look at that for you, do an evaluation, see where you're at exactly as far as how many reviews you have, how your Google My Business listing is organized and set up. And let's talk about accuracy of data for a moment. There's a good conversation.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as you were talking about it because of the citation side of things as far as being involved, that accuracy.
Yeah, citations is simply your name, address, and phone number. I don't even know why they call them citations. It's got to be an old school word from somewhere back in the day. Your citation is essentially your business's name, address, and phone number published on another website on the internet. So that's it in its simplest terms. Now, the more important or the more reputable that website is, the more valuable that citation is to you. For example, if you have a citation in the Yellow Pages online, there's a good place for it. A free listing is a great place for you to be in the Yellow Pages these days because that citation is valuable. A citation on Yelp, a citation on TripAdvisor, Angie's List, on any of these very large reputable directories. Because what Google does is they actually look through their algorithm to these directories to help determine the authenticity of your business's name, address, and phone number. And if they keep finding your business name, address, and phone number spelled correctly on all of these other directories, it happens to match the way you spelled it in your Google My Business listing and the way you spelt it on your website, they pull all this data together, and that helps them determine that, yes, they've authenticated this really is you. I can't even imagine the level of complexity they must go through to actually figure this out. But they need to get all of the businesses literally in the world listed in the Google index, and they need to have the accurate business name, address, and phone number. It sounds like a simple thing, but it's not. And then I know I was sitting at a conference in Vegas listening. There's a search conference, and Matt Cutts there. Matt Cutts was there, one of the senior original employees of Google. Interesting guy. And he mentioned, this was a few years ago, so I imagine it's better now. But at the time, he said 70% of the information in these directories is inaccurate. So he was talking to 1,000 search people and say, please get your clients to update their information. We got to get this information accurate.
Yeah, when you think about all the places that your information can be located, I mean, I'm not surprised that it can be inaccurate. Just like you talked about, spelling makes a difference. The way an address is portrayed, I mean, those little things make such a big difference.
It's true. And when we run reports, we've got special tools at SmarterLocal where we can run reports. And what happens is it goes out, it scours the internet for you, gathers in all of your citations, all the locations, your business name, address, and phone number are mentioned into this nice little report. And most business owners, when you see it, you're horrified because everything's spelled differently. You got wrong phone numbers. Maybe you were entering data in 3 years ago where somebody else was, and somebody spelled it street. Somebody spelled it ST. Somebody spelled it STR. Same with avenue. Same with business names can be abbreviated, shortened. They didn't put the INC on the end or the LTD. And it's just, you look at it and it's just like, it's a mess. And they need to be accurate. And for minimal cost, we can go through all of those directories. And there's about 40 of them that you really need to be in. And you need to be listed accurately because, again, Google looks to that information to authenticate your business so they can put you in the proper location in the Google results. And if we got 90+% of the people who used to use Yellow Pages now using Google, you need to be in there.
Right.
So I guess it's safe to say that in the same way that the Yellow Pages was the first place we would look for local businesses, I think it's pretty agreeable that that's no longer happening. And now it's primarily the big Google.
Right. That's right.
So I know we got a few takeaways to kind of get our listeners maybe focused on a few things. I know this can be a lot, and I know you have a busy day in front of you, and you got a lot of juggling to do as it is, and maybe the last thing you need to do is worry about this, but we really should, because this is where the clients and customers are going to be coming from if they're not already coming through your door or giving you a call as you'd like. So you talked about reallocating some of the funds that maybe they haven't spent for a few years, and maybe they're thinking back and it's like, oh, I used to spend $1,000 a month or $500 a month or $300, but taking a portion of that.
Right.
And what do you think, allocating it back to their, or diverting it back to their online marketing?
Yeah, they're probably already spending it or have spent it in a marketing budget. So now instead of, advertising in the Yellow Pages or another hard type publication, they can take those dollars and they can divert them to online marketing where they're focusing like on the search engine optimization and the top 10 keywords that we talked about earlier.
Yep.
The search results are important. So there's ways to, again, use those same funds to help people, find their site, and then with the review cycle. So it's really a positive. They can even broaden their exposure, outside of that local community, whereas the Yellow Pages could be more limiting in that area. And just that online Google presence is going to save them money, giving them wider exposure compared to what they spend on Yellow Pages.
And you mentioned the top 10 keywords again, and let me give an example for that. I again have a client in Victoria, BC, on the south end of Vancouver Island up here in British Columbia. Dr. Cale Copeland, he's a chiropractor. He's been a client of mine for many, many years as well. And when we ran his original keyword list, we identified all the most obvious words, and then we ran it into our tool to tell us not only that we have the top 10 most valuable keywords here. The reason we say they're the most valuable is because we can see how many people search for those exact phrases each month. And in his particular case, when we added them all up, the search volume for those 10 keyword phrases in a month, it was 2,940 people in the greater Victoria area are looking for a chiropractor on Google every month. That's valuable information because now okay, well, I got potentially 3,000 people here. And if I could work my way up to the top of the results and I can get 20% of those people to call me, that's 600 inbound calls a month. And if I could get 10% only, well, that's 300. And if you think about it, if somebody's typing in a keyword phrase like Victoria, BC chiropractor, they're probably, we call this a high intent keyword. The intentions of somebody typing in Victoria, BC chiropractor is pretty likely looking for a chiropractor. So when you have those 10 keywords in your hand, it's pretty much gold because now you know what to organize your site around. You know what you need to be optimizing for. Those are the money words. I had a chance to actually get Dr. Cale on the line for one of the episodes. He actually had his best month ever, and he talked about that. And he says, doctor shares secrets to attracting 44 patients in 30 days. So that's basically 10 new patients in a week times 4. And it's continuing on. It's a few months later now. And he's thrilled, but he took the time to get organized, to get his site optimized properly, to get up into the results, and to understand what his top 10 keywords are. So if you would like to get a listing of your top 10 keywords, definitely reach out to us. So that's one of the things to focus on. And then let's talk about kind of summarize the reviews. Because again, Google reviews, I know a lot of business owners are nervous about reviews. I don't know how to get them. I'm scared to go look at what people have said about me, or sometimes I see something nasty, and that's just business. Everybody has, I don't care how good your business is, you're going to get negative reviews. It could be a competitor, it could be somebody had a bad day, it could be whatever. But so important. It
is, and as we've talked about before, if you only have good reviews, most of the time we're going to question is something really legitimate in that. So having a negative review interspersed in your positive reviews is not a big deal, and it's not that unusual. So
yes, and I was talking to Rich, the bartender at Sawbucks the other day, and he said, did you see the review we got on Saturday? And it was nasty.
Oh.
But they've got 750 reviews. They average 4.3 out of 5 across all the directories and on their website. And one negative, as you said, mixed in amongst hundreds in their particular case of positive reviews. It's great. But even if it was 10 reviews, you had 10 reviews and one of them was a little bad.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. I know with Dr. Cale, same thing. He phoned me a couple weeks ago and we're talking about his paid search results. And in his particular case, he was a little bit down because he just had a real negative review from a patient. And it's just like, it happens. And in his particular case, I think he's got something like, let me just have a quick look here. Victoria Family Chiropractic. see what he's got today. And when we started with him, he had nearly no reviews. So today he's got 71 Google reviews, 4.9 out of 5.
Wow, the percentage on that, is great in his favor. So The reviews, you're right, people can be afraid of them, but they are a necessary component now of people looking at you on Google. If you don't see reviews there and there's somebody right below them with reviews, I tend to look at the reviews. I want to know what people have to say about them.
You bet. And I'm looking at his Facebook reviews too. Yeah. He's got 20 reviews in Facebook, 4.9 out of 5 as well. So you get an odd review. The whole trick with reviews is to embrace them, get out ahead of anything that's going to be this negative down the line, and you'll be totally fine. And as you said, there was a study recently, and we talked about that, I think in another episode.
Last week, was it the Harvard study that you're talking about?
Yeah, the Harvard Business School.
Yeah.
Exactly. Harvard Business School study found that increasing your rating, basically, by 1 star will give you a 5 to almost 10% increase in revenue. That's how important reviews are.
You can't argue the numbers.
You can't. You definitely can. I don't think there can be a place that somebody can focus. Of course, there's Facebook and there's all the other places to get traffic, but this is the place to start. This is definitely the beginning. So now you also mentioned, and this is number 3, broadening their exposure in the local community, where Yellow Pages, you were basically limited to wherever that book was dropped that you happen to be in. Yeah. But the internet, in the early days, let's put it this way. If you're in your community and you wanted your listing in to be found by your local consumers, you paid for that. If you wanted to be also found in the community next door, you had to buy your way into that book as well.
That's right.
Internet's a whole different animal.
Yeah, it is. And if my mother were still driving, she wouldn't have to stop and look for Yellow Pages or grab another one off steps. She'd just look right at her little phone and find you. And then look on the map and drive there.
Absolutely. The other thing with this is, too, a lot of this work that we're talking about, it's one-time effort. There's a little bit of maintenance along the way for sure. But generally, to get this organized and get everything correct and all the accuracy of the data and across all of these directories and making sure your Google My Business is up to date and that everything is just right so you can sleep at night knowing that you've got it set up properly, it's nothing compared to the investment people used to make in the Yellow Pages.
Right.
So let's kind of wrap this up here. Let me just toss it over to you. Final thoughts.
Well, you were just saying basically the same thing I was thinking as far as, it just requires developing a plan, executing that plan, having the right team in place for those components, and then you just monitor to just tweak the results that you get, and that, just really enhances your business presence on Google and the search results. Keep it simple. We know where the customers are now. Yes. That's one thing Google has done is refocus them to one place. It's a little more complicated because there's more layers to it, but it's also a whole bunch more exciting because we know where they are. So I guess there we have it, why you need to look at the big Google as the new Yellow Pages. Jane, thanks for joining us today. You're quite welcome, James. Thanks again for the opportunity.
It's been just a pleasure. We're out of time. Now, again, if what we talked about here today makes sense to you and you'd like to get yourself found and you want to make sure your data is accurate across your Google My Business, Google Maps, Google local search results, and all of the natural results, plus all of the major directories, and would possibly like some help in this area, simply, again, reply to the email in which you received this episode, and we'll arrange a quick little discovery call. We'll gather up some basic details from you and information, and then we will put together what we call a Smarter Local Market evaluation for you, which will literally reveal where all your reviews are, how you're looking, where your citations are, the accuracy of your data, your name, address, and phone number, and a number of other things, including your top 10 most profitable keywords, all on us. Just simply reply to the email, and we will be happy to organize a call with you. And also, this will give us an opportunity to see if there's a good chance for us to work together. No pressure, to see if we can help bring you more customers. So again, simply reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode. And finally, if you enjoyed this episode and know a friend or an associate who would benefit from what we talked about here today, please do pass this episode on to them. I'm sure they will thank you for it. Jane, thanks again. And to our listeners, thanks for listening to another edition of the Smarter Local Marketing Podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Smarter Local Marketing Podcast. If you would love to finally have in place a rock-solid internet marketing strategy that provides you with an excellent ongoing return on investment, then go ahead and reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode to arrange a free, no-obligation 30-minute consultation to discuss how a smarter local marketing program can be tailored to your specific needs and business. Again, simply reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode to arrange your free, no-obligation 30-minute consultation.